Hello, what are you doing? Fine. Oroba Street in Heliopolis district. In Cairo, you will see a palace in front of you. Baron M. Payne, who is considered a masterpiece. Legendary architecture based on Indian style as soon as you stand in front. This amazing palace will make you feel as if you have traveled in your mind, a fantasy world. The impossibility of you transgressing from in front of this palace, turn your back and walk. You will find yourself against you. I stood and walked. You have your eyes in it and you ask many questions. How do I adopt this palace and who is it? Who built it and who is its owner, and when will I adopt it? What is its history and what is the story of the jinn? The one you live in, as people do. What is the story of the devil worshippers? Those who sneak inside and practice their rituals and people see. The one who lives in the buildings around it, they can see and hear what? At night, what is the story of the room? The secret that is under the palace, and the tunnels that are under it? Actually, this palace is cursed, not because it is. It looks strange and terrifying. People are looking forward. It is all, God willing, we will talk about it today in the video. But before what? Let me tell you about the story of the Baron Palace. I ask of you a small request that you subscribe and like and share, and press the bell to get you every video new. Well, let's start our story about the terrifying Baron's Palace. First, it is necessary we know who Baron M. Payne is. Owner. This palace. The Belgian Baron Edward M. Payne. Born in the year 52 development. I was born in rural center of a large family and scarce resources. But it's what? Surrender to social reality and the economy in which he was living. He sought to finish his studies in the field of electrical engineering and go then in the areas of life and work. Although he started his life from zero, but he finished it square on the throne of one of the biggest business and industry empires in 20th century, and got rank a general in the Belgian army. Not fired, not a single shot. And bliss. The King of France had the title Baron Elie awarded to him in recognition of his efforts to create. And after he was living in a class modest socialite joined Baron M. Payne for the Belgian gentry. Linked industrial development projects in Europe and participated in giant projects inside and outside Europe and in Spain, Russia, China, and India, Egypt and others. The Baron was an engineer, outstanding in his work, and he loved to travel, and traveling, fall in love with civilizations, the East, and love India, and lived in it long years, and read a lot about ancient legends. Here it is. His decision to search for a historical place. I offer to visit him. What is the gash other than a cradle? Ancient civilizations Egypt. And at the end, the 19th century arrived in Egypt. Millionaire Belgian businessman Baron Edward Anban has arrived on their ship coming from India. Received. The Baron of Cairo and his love to the point. Madness. I made the decision to stay in Egypt until his death. And he wrote in his will. He is buried in the dust of Egypt. Even if died outside. Fadl al-Baron feels good. For a residence in Cairo, he chose a place in the desert, enjoys the clear weather and calm, and he decided to build his house in. This is the place, and I would like to study a model. The architect who built the house, he decided to build a palace that has no water in it. The whole world. The Baron M. Payne. Purchasing an architectural design. The magnificence of the architect. French Alexander Marcel. Was. Design combines architecture, European and Indian. It was delivered. Designed for a group of engineers, Italians and Belgians. Because they begin to erect the palace on a hill. High. Set it for them in the desert. Cairo. After 5 years, I left. The masterpiece of light is a very luxurious palace with its balconies, decorated with alabaster grooves in the form of elephants with a petrol tower on a base. Animated a full cycle every hour because the person sitting in it is allowed to. He sees all the views around him, in all directions. And the wonder in this palace was built in a sense, no. The sun never sets. Was with the Baron in his designer projects. Belgian architect Ernst Esbar. And on the day of the Baron, he was walking in horse riding with the architect. Arns. Here, Ernst said. Heliopolis, the city of the sun. I will start constructing a large building, which is a hotel. Heliopolis Plus, who is currently Federal Presidential Palace, and complete. The Baron said. He said, I hope be in line with the traditions and terrace country. And Baron M. Payne advances. Year 9005 for the government Egyptian to allow the establishment of a suburb of Egypt. New. To set up large housing from desert lands at a price of pounds. 1 acre land. With the encouragement of the Egyptian government has great facilities. The Baron set up many companies. Water, electricity, and the Egypt Metro. New and other companies to divide land, building housing, and building a church. Basilica. I mean, you can say. That is why Baron Empan is the father. Spiritual Heliopolis is the one. Established Heliopolis district. And he is the first one named Heliopolis, which in Greek means city. The sun. He named it Heliopolis, the lost city of Heliopolis days. Pharaohs. There was a city time, pharaonic, called Heliopolis. Was. Its place is in Madurai, right at Pharaonic obelisk in the Madurai district. The pharaonic obelisk in Al-Madurai is the last thing left of the city. Old Heliopolis or city. Ancient pharaonic sun. The Baron and Pan love works for a city. New Heliopolis or Heliopolis. In honor of the city of Heliopolis. Old. What is left of it? Currently the obelisk is in the Madurai district. The important thing is Baron Anban who built the palace. The year of 1000 development 72. And he built it so that this palace would remain private. It is for him to live in and adopt. Palace in 5 years to come out in. Wonderful what you see now. Duh. And the area of the palace spreads out to 1,500 square meters. And his garden was all planted citrus. But what? Al-Mayer refrained from the palace. The garden. 2 parts. The main palace and a small annex near him. What do I do after that? A hotel called the Baron Hotel. And on the walls of the palace have wonderful grooves of alabaster, doing head movements. Indian and elephants raise the windows. The knights of Shailene swords and beasts. Legendary leaning on walls and models. A blouse and pieces of art made with my hands. International artists. And the palace is like that. I told you it was designed by the French artist. The world famous Alexander Marcel Hussey. D'Estaing. Every little bit sends a messenger to the Baron because he buys a mansion. But of course the Baron, he refused to sell the palace. Is what? Please don't get tired all these years because built by Willem, these antiques are all over the place. Around the world and rare plants. From all over the world because in the other sells the palace or takes it from him. The important thing is that the Baron ran away every time. Who replied to the Sultan that he sells the palace. But when the Sultan found workers, he insists on him and sends him everyone. Happy. The Baron, the convoy of the palace, took his family and traveled outside Egypt to calm his brain from the Sultan and see his projects located abroad. And when I die, Sultan Hussein Kamel, Sultan of Egypt, the Baron returned to Egypt with his family. Second, and he preferred to sit in his palace. enjoy it without limit. Annoys him. He preferred to live in the palace. With his wife and 2 daughters. The Baron had a French friend named Duke Marib, daughter of the Duke. Marib's name is Sylvia. Sylvia is dating a girl. Baron. Sylvia were friends. Very. But alas, Sylvia was not ordinary girl. She was part of a slave group. Evil. And she wanted to drag a man. The Baron's daughter was with her in the congregation to perform rituals with her. Satanism is theirs. First need. Sylvia did it as a gift for Ed. A plaque with an inverted cross. Cross. Inverted is a symbol of the symbols. Devil worshippers. She told her my cheek. Painting deep. And hang it in the room. His. And actually if I took the painting from, not thinking of suspended in audit ha. And Sylvia was for what was left with N. She used to bring heavenly books with her and she was. Give up. Her legs on the heavenly books and Sylvia, of course, was sharing it in. Desecration of the divine books. And times. Hold these books and read them. Upside down. I mean, they read the words. The one who is inside it upside down. On the contrary, all these needs are at all Satan's ways. This is their style. Already. After that, the matter developed. And Sylvia kept answering her friends until now. Palace went. And it was that I knew. The secret room he was working on. The Baron or the Room of Mirrors. It is located under the palace. She was taking. Sylvia and her friends are sitting under in. This room is without the Baron. Known. And I preferred this whole group. Satan worship rituals. Air. The secret room. They were answering. A certain kind of incense and they luke it out. And they were answering bats and slaughtering them. And they all sing with some sad intonation. All satanic rituals were by Marsoha in the secret room to the point that they got to exercise group sex with each other. And almost. This is how they succeeded in summoning demons. Inside the palace. From here it started. Damn, it hits everyone around. The palace. It was the beginning of the fuck with. In the elevator or in the elevator for food to some extent. She died. It is said that the accident is this. Hudsat orchestrated mesh fate and destiny. And yet, that damn long sister Baron, who is Baroness Helena Lee. She fell from the balcony of the palace and died. It is said that the sister of the Baron when she fell, and the rotating tower that is, died. The tower of the palace that is behind, about himself stopped spinning. And he didn't go back around like the first until now. This day what time is the Baron's sister? I fell from the balcony and died. The Baron is looking at the tower in this direction. The south. The first time he heard his sister's scream, the tower stopped spinning and running quickly to catch up. But unfortunately what? To catch her and die. After that, 6 servants, those who were employed in a palace, died. One after the other. One dies after the other, in strange and incomprehensible senses. And the strangest death that was among them was achieved. The servants, Madame de Mora, who is crowded. Her head is in the elevator that comes out, eating up. It is said that the elevator, he cut off her head and shawl and took off with it, up to the upper levels, smashed it up. Table room. But the rest of the brother, the Baron, is said to have died inside the basement. As for the daughter of the Baron, he rose. Every time she tried to commit suicide, when everyone in the house dies, everybody dies in the house. She was trying to commit suicide, but she was failing. And the Baron brought her a psychiatrist to treat her, but unfortunately, there is no point. But why? The Baron liked to punish her for what he did. Once she fails, she commits suicide, he would lock her up in the pink room or room. The mirrors are under the palace. He would have preferred to lock it up for an hour. The room. What she was doing. It has the rituals of worshipping Satan. And Sylvia from behind her father. That's what. It was the first thing that you look out for. The room remains cheerful and moody. Well. And her mental state is good. It was the psychiatrist who was. I brought it to her. He was surprised. Why the girl? When her father locked her in a room. These mirrors are her psychological state. You get better like this. She was replying on him and says that her friends who are inside the mirror was talking to her and sitting with her all the time. But who? Her friends are countries and she remains imprisoned. Alone in the room. God knows. But alas, when I reached the age of 19-year-old has already committed suicide. She threw herself from her balcony. And she committed suicide. As for the Baron himself, he got in bad shape because he was lost. Most of his family members and servants consciously. She would have seizures and fall asleep on the earth. And there was no limit from the servants. He can do it from his place. If you get him. An epileptic fit fell to the ground. It was. Alarm on servants' toa. That no fish. Some of them touch it. Even if you bring him. Epileptic seizure and fell to the ground, what? What kind of service does he do? Status. Or remove it and return it to his bed. He was going down to the garden for a walk. and with him is his dog, and give him a fit, epilepsy, and it is preferable to throw this on the ground. El Geniana. Maybe by the hour. In 2 or 3 hours, and the dog ta sitting on his side and guarded. Gesticulate. No one of the servants is asking him to come near from him, preferably in case of fainting, until he exceeds and returns again from himself. He was a very strange person. And in the other, the Baron had to travel to Belgium for treatment, and he died in Belgium one day, 22 July, the year of 1929, and move. The 2 bodies belong to Egypt, and bury, in which, as he was a student at, his will is that he be buried in Egypt, and the grave, it is still available to this day. The Basilica Church that is located in Heliopolis. Baron's tomb. The basement under the church he built and preferred. The palace is deserted and closed 50 years. And his garden, it had rare plants. It was. The Baron brought it from Kazakh state from. The whole world is dead. Gardens turned. The palace is all in ruins. And completed. With addicts. As for the population, they live around the palace. They say that in the year 1980, I got a very strange intuition. See, a sif smoke rising from the room, the main palace, and then the smoke. This entered the inside of the tower that was Baron's favorite place. And after that, they saw the flames and it was spreading in the whole palace. And they quickly left the population. They called the fire brigade. But before what? Firefighter, it was all fire. Extinguished. And the smoke is gone. As if nothing need God. The problem is that the sharpness. This is not a single person or two. The people around the palace are all. They saw her. To this day, I do not know. The cause of the accident is and most gossip says that the Baron Palace, it is a real horror house. I hear. Herrick sounds are the basis of the palace between his rooms at night. Suddenly they see blooming lights in the backyard. For the palace, residents turn on lights. Lights up in the backyard of the palace. Suddenly, the lights are off. And not. Do you know what its source is? Janitor said. One of the buildings in front of me. The palace that ghosts do not bloom in. This palace is not at night. And ghosts. You don't want a chance for anyone to be. It is preferable to stay inside the palace at night, no matter what. It was wishful thinking. It's the ghosts. Exist in the palace is the ghost of the architect, Who built the palace? Alexander Marcel. It is said that the Baron killed him because of what? He builds a palace similar to the Baron's palace. And from the ghosts that are also present in the palace is the ghost of the Baron's sister. I fell from the balcony and saying, before she died, she preferred to gasp. Bach ha Baronischen exa. Only. He didn't hear it. He was busy. At the base of the tower. Who suddenly broke down. About rotation. And it doesn't move. This is what made his sister's ghost want. Take revenge on him. Because he did not work himself. Hear it? When she was tempted by him. Because of falling. It is said that a ghost. The Baron's wife is also among the ghosts. The famous palace. Because after what? I got stuck in the elevator and died. The Baron buried her body in a far place. In the desert and not buried in cemeteries. The family. It blooms like this that the Baron is not. Kunsh loves her. When his wife died. They should be buried in cemeteries. The family. But he buried her alone in a remote place in the desert. And almost. This is the one who masterminded his intuition. Her death. And let it get stuck inside the elevator. And die. And it could be her ghost. He is the one who takes revenge on everything in me. The house. It has sad chanting. Residents hear it at night, coming from the palace. And they hear these voices through March of every year. This is the month. The one who committed suicide is a daughter. Baron. And mysterious intuitions. And this is frightening what was happening in abandoned palace vacant group of Egyptian youth in the middle of the year 1097. In a famous intuition made them sneak into the palace. At night. They throw loud parties. They were dancing and singing to the tunes. Black metal music. Who is Satan worship music. The youth group is a country that enters the air. Abandoned palace and practicing rituals. Satan worship. I submitted reports. Many of the residents who were around the palace because of the shower. She was getting it. Indeed, the police jet and arrested. And she was the first. A case of its kind in Egypt. Was first. Once Egyptian society knows a need. Its name is Satanism. First intuition. In Egypt, the police arrest a group. Satan worship. And it was then 2139 to 2143. And they told the police when they entered the palace. And I caught the young people who they perform rituals and meet them in a room. The mirrors are under the palace. The walls of the room were stained with blood. Cats and dogs. As for fate, the palace itself preferred deserted and worn out. The palace was vandalized, destroy and steal, and preferred neglected for a while. Big. But the palace is under control now, to supervise the Islamic family sector, and Coptic in the Ministry of Families. And yet, suffering that lasted 50 years after a text. A century ago, the palace was owned of the Egyptian state after concluding a minister. Former housing Mohammed Ibrahim Suleiman agreement with the palace owner's workshop. Jan Empen, grandson of Baron Anban, buying a palace in exchange for a workshop grant. The Baron is an alternative plot of land in Cairo. New ones to live on. Investment projects, and in the course of the last 2 years, it was restored. The entire palace took over the ministry. Egyptian sake of our restoration process. And I returned to his garden planted. And the palace came back clean, beautiful, and enlightening. The first time I adopted and stayed a shrine. Tourist for Egyptians and foreigners. Cut a zikra, enter and watch it from atmosphere and enjoy the menzers who are in it. But that was our story today about Baron Empane Palace, which is located in Heliopolis district in Cairo. It is considered one of the most terrifying places in Egypt. And who went around it? Lots of words. Oh God, be the video. I like you and I enjoyed it. And you benefited from the historical information. It's in the video. And see you well in the videos. Gaya. I say goodbye to you.